p.m. Eastern for Only the Best for You with Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio.
Team around me that I'm working with. I no longer, have learning.
Hey guys, and welcome to the roller coaster ride of business. I'm your host, Hannah Edwards, and today I am joined by the awesome Donnie Boivin. Thank you for joining me, Donnie.
Hey, Anne, thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this. It's always fun when I get a chance to talk all the way across the pond.
And you get to listen to all the different accents as well.
Right. You can't go wrong when you hear all the fun accents because, over here we don't have as many fun accents as you guys get over there. So.
Oh, I have two combined in one, so it's all right.
Me too, but that all depends on how much I've drank. So.
Oh no, mine's just normal without any alcohol.
Oh well, then I'll have to try that.
Because we get, funny enough, I was talking to a friend about it the other day, and I was saying things, I say things like pass and stuff like that, but then I say glass.
Well, why? I do that somewhat too, but that's mainly because I get lazy. And I don't know any of the words, but when I get tired or whatever, you'll definitely hear my twang come out more than I intend. What's funny about that is, when I first got out of the Marine Corps, and I got my first, my idea of success was working in a big high rise, wearing the suits and, driving the nice cars and all that. That was success when I was young.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I realized, okay, that's the stupidest idea of success ever. But one of my VPs of that very large company came up to me when I first got that job before I started climbing the ladder. And he said, you got to do two things. And the first thing you must do is get rid of any accents, right? You can't work in big corporate America and have an accent. So I had to quit saying y'all and, lose my country boy twang. And then the second thing he says, don't tell anybody you're a veteran because it won't help you in business. And he wasn't wrong. It's just the way it is being in the military doesn't help your career whatsoever, but yeah, so I had to learn how to not say y'all or any other twang word that may come out of my mouth. You'll probably hear some today though. Well,
it'll make for a very interesting show. You'll be the first one on there saying it. The first one about saying it.
Hey, I like being first, so.
You're a former Marine, an international coach and speaker. How did you make the jump from that?
I spent 40 years living other people's dreams.
Yeah.
I when I got out of the Marine Corps, I got into sales, and I just found that I don't want to say came natural to me, but I got really good at it. And through that journey, I never realized how much money I was making other people.
Yeah.
And literally one day at a meeting, I kind of got this epiphany, if you will, that I spent my entire career making other people wealthy. And so I said enough's enough, and I did the stupidest thing in my life. And I walked away from a 7-figure partnership where I was in the process of buying my partner out. And I started, I have a guy pulling up to me. Hold on. Sorry about that. So I just had this light bulb moment where, I'd realized that I'd made a lot of people a lot of money and without any parachute, not a lot of money in the savings account because, I always just love to buy whatever's in front of me. And I started my own company and jumped out there. And I really thought that I was going to be a international phenom in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And dude, I tell you, it was very surprising how much I didn't know about running a business.
Yeah.
And, I thought just being a sales guy was going to allow me to go out and blow up the world. Yet no, I had to figure out how to be a business owner first and then, get it to work. And now that I've got a better handle on that, life's gotten a lot of fun. thank God I started my podcast, because that's what really set my business off to the level it's at now.
That's pretty cool. So the coach and speaker bit, what is it that made you wanting to actually become that?
The speaker first is one, I'm a little cocky and I love being on stage. I love being in the limelight up there and talking to crowds. That's a lot of fun. The second thing that makes it a lot of fun is I love it when people come up after the speech and they're like, this impacted me how, or I'm using this, or, oh my God, your story so resonated with me. And I don't have the big, crappy life story or, problems with childhood. I mean, I just grew up in lower middle America, so I don't have a lot of the impact stuff. I just have the story of, I figured out how to get out of my own way as I went about my journey, and realized that I was the number one thing preventing me from hitting the levels of success that I wanted to hit.
Yeah.
So I think really liked that rawness behind the story. The coach part came about because as I was doing a lot of sales training, I got tired of being in training sessions with people who didn't want to be there. So I'd go in, I'd sell a deal where there'd be, hundreds of people wanting to learn sales in the room, and a bunch of them, you could tell, were sitting in the back and didn't care. They didn't want to be there. They didn't want to be part of this process or program. So I started picking out people in those sessions and doing one-on-one coaching, and that just became a lot of fun. So when I started my own business, I knew coaching was going to be a big part of it, just because it was a lot of fun. Now I had to learn what it meant to really be a coach.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go out and just wing it, which is what I did out the gate. And I'm like, oh, I'm a coach. So like, what's your process? I'm like, oh, I just sit across you and we figure things out. Yeah, that doesn't take you very far, So I had to figure out a coaching process. I had to figure out how to get, clients, so it was a good learning process, but it's all, comes from, as I keep telling everybody, is I keep just getting punched in the face by life. And that is the greatest tool in the world to learn anything.
Yeah. See, you just said that getting up and speaking in front of people is fun. It petrifies me.
Well, what's the running joke that the number one fear in the world is public speaking? Number 2 is death. Number 3 is dying while public speaking. So,
I don't know. I think my number one fear for me is like clowns. So I think it's clowns and then public speaking for me.
Yeah, clowns are a little creepy. I don't have the fear as like some do, but you got some grown-ass man painted with makeup on his face playing with kids. Don't get it. Just don't get it.
Imagine if I had to actually get up and speak in a room full of clowns. How terrifying would that be for me?
I think we're going to make that happen for you at some point to see if we can just knock out all your fears at once.
I don't think that's going to work. I don't think I'll show up now. I'm never ever going to come anywhere near you to meet you now.
Yeah, for me, I mean, public speaking wasn't something that I set out to do. I just found some success in sales and networking, and in my local area in Texas, they, because of the reputation I built through networking, people just started asking me to get on stage and start talking about how I network. Yeah. And because of that, it evolved into more regular speaking. And then when I found sales training, I found found myself on stage all over the U.S. speaking, and it just became fun. So I don't think anybody's really born with like natural born skills. I think you learn everything. So I think I was just put in a situation enough times that I found some talent in it, and I'll take any room and go, instead of a keynote, I will 100% turn that into a Q&A session and get people to start asking me questions. Yeah. And if you've ever spoken, it's a hell of a lot easier if people are asking you questions and you're responding. It makes it a lot more fun speaking that style. So that's where I try and push everything.
So in your journey, obviously I always describe with my show being called what it is, business being a roller coaster. You have your fantastic high, then you have your really your lowest low. So what for you has been the highest point of your career so far?
For me, it's overall the high of the career. I'll still say it's the podcast. I was, I never wanted to. I'm a story of I never really wanted to do this type thing, but I found it, and I have some talent for it. I was on a couple of guests for podcasts like this one, and had a lot of fun. And after like my first show that I did, I'm like, oh, I want to go do that a lot more. So I started getting on a lot of shows, and then I was on some really, really good shows, and then I was on some really, really crappy shows. And I'm like, okay, if these crappy people can do it, so can I. So I started my own show, not knowing what the hell I was going to do, and it's been fun. Just like this, I love hearing stories from all over the world and what they've been through, the highs and lows, how they got past them, what's their redemption story. That's just a lot of fun. I know your next question is going to be, what's the low of the lows?
Yeah.
It's when, and I'll stay with this company because it's when I jumped out, I really thought that the world was just going to show up and embrace what I was doing. I had no idea how much work this was going to be, and this is a kick in the teeth. There's a big, entrepreneur movement right now that everybody's trying to be an entrepreneur. And I keep comparing it to like multi-level marketing. They sell you the dream that you're going to be a millionaire overnight and work whatever hours you want, that kind of stuff. That's what the entrepreneur thing is right now. And I think part of me probably bought into that process.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it's a lot tougher game than I was anticipating. And, for me, it was, the lows of, okay, I no longer have a team around me that I'm working with. I no longer, have processes. It was learning everything and knowing that I was going to get punched in the face doing this by life and everything else. I just didn't realize how hard I was going to get hit. Yeah. And it took me quite a bit of time to get my feet underneath me. And dude, that was a rough time. I had to lean on some really close friends and family through that time as I continued to figure this out because you just don't know what you don't know. And, being an entrepreneur is you're learning every damn day.
Oh, definitely.
Because if you're not, you're not running a business.
And you say the word entrepreneur there, that just reminded me. Happy World Entrepreneur Day.
No, nice.
No, I hit on Facebook this morning that was actually a thing.
I love that.
Literally didn't have a clue until I went on Facebook and someone put a post up saying like Happy World Entrepreneur Day. I was like, that's a thing.
Oh, well, every day is a holiday thing of some sort. Like National Burger Day. Right. I used to, before I went up on speeches, I would look and see, okay, what's the holiday for the day, and like bring it up. And one speech, I was going to speak to a couple hundred bankers, and I'm like, this is a very stoic crowd. I've got to do something to get them engaged before we go up there. It just happened to be National High Five Day. So I walked in, I said, okay, guys, it's National High Five Day. I need you to all stand up and give 5 other people high five. But it was perfect because they all did. So if you're a public speaker, use that, whether it's National High Five Day or not. But it got them all out of their, okay, who's this guy? Why is he speaking to us? It got them engaged and fun. So sometimes the holidays really work in your favor.
Yeah. So as a coach, and I asked the coaches the other week on some of the stuff that they came out with, I was a bit shocked. What is it that, like, the worst mistake that you've seen someone that you've coached make?
Not take my advice. No, I'm kidding.
That's what they said to you.
I think the worst mistake that everybody makes is thinking you can do it on your own.
Yeah.
That the phrase "it takes a village," that's a real thing. And I think for some of my clients, they may have me as a coach, but they are constantly, nobody can do it as good as I can type mentality. I think that kicks their ass a lot because they are so stressed out of trying to do everything that they can't grow their company because they're not learning the things they need to learn. They're getting stuck on minute things in their business when they could literally jump out and grab a virtual assistant or, somebody who specializes in that kind of stuff and get, taken care of for them. So that's probably the biggest mistake, is them trying to do it on their own.
And the best thing you've seen someone do?
So one of the gals that I started coaching, we coached together for about 6 months, and she implemented everything. I had to be very careful coaching her because everything I said she did, and which is good and bad. I can't say that I'm always right because I don't always know all the right moves.
Yeah.
But she was kind of a wallflower, didn't like getting out there, but within 6 months, she had one mission. She wanted to make enough money that her husband could walk away from a job that he absolutely hated.
Nice.
So we went to work really on her sales processes and teaching her how to sell and the models and the things behind that. And in 6 months, she was able to pull it off. And she turned her business into a 6-figure business. She learned to sell. She'll tell you she's still not great at sales, but we built a process that we took a lot of the sale out of it. And, her husband now works for her, and, they're continuing to scale and go on.
Yeah.
And, so that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun working with her.
So where are you hoping to see you and your business, say, in 5 years' time?
Well, we just rolled out a really cool thing. We just added a content development portion of our company. And this just came about because of the podcast.
Yeah.
And what we found is when we interview somebody for this show, that's content, and it's social content.
Yeah.
So we put together a team of people that will take that interview and turn it into, a month's worth of content for our guests on the podcast. And so we started doing that, and they love it. So we're catching that audio, that video, and we're turning it into blog posts, we're turning it into memes, we're turning it into short clips, and people are really, really loving that concept. So we've scaled that out, so now we've rolled it out to business owners in the area, and we're now doing interviews, and we're turning that all into stuff. So I see my company still doing the speaking, the coaching, the podcasting, but it's evolving into this content development thing because everybody knows that they need to get social content out there. Just people know that they are not the greatest in that skill set. So I see this thing evolving into not a social media company, but a content development and strategy company, where we're helping people become that influencer type thing by helping them getting that, and I hate the word authentic, it's getting too played out right now, but helping them get that raw side of them out there and tell the story. And it's the origin story of the company. You're seeing a lot of big companies where the CEOs are coming out now and they're on commercials and things because they're trying to show the human side of their business.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing that, but for smaller businesses, so they can give a consistent message. So I see this thing really blowing up in that arena, helping people get their message out there and give them the content that they struggle to build, and allowing it to come across in a real way. You put a camera in front of somebody and they usually get really stoic and they get really pinned up. But just like this conversation, this is all cool content. It's a great flow.
Yeah.
And you can put that into real content and people really, really vibe with that. So it's going to be a fun ride the next 5 years.
That's very cool. I'm liking the sound of it. I'm excited to see what happens on it.
Yeah, it's fun.
So where are you hoping to be with your podcast within the next few years?
I keep telling everybody I wish I would have started my podcast years ago because I had no idea how fun it was going to be. I mean, it's really become a passion for me, and I just love doing it. I love hearing people's stories. I really think I'm going to be one of the top podcasts in the world. I really think because I love the conversation with people. I love genuinely talking to people. I really think that, when you go look at iTunes or SoundCloud or CastBox, I think you'll start seeing it up there before too long. It's one of the top shows.
Yeah.
And the goal of the podcast is really just to hear people's stories. I really think everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Even when they don't, those sometimes are the funnest guests to have on, because you can really help them peel back the layers and show that, their story, whatever they've been through, whether it's tragic or whether it's just a normal life, somebody else is living that same life, and by sharing their story, they can impact and change somebody else's trajectory of their life. So I don't know. I really think that the world is going to keep doing like they're doing now and keep embracing it. And I see it evolving to people wanting me to do this more live and in person, where they're asking me to, hey, bring some of these guests back that have been on the show, and let's have a Q&A on stage and go through the process. Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
I'm probably it's probably not a question I should potentially ask, considering I have a podcast. But do you not find that it's becoming too easy for anyone to just wake up in the morning now and go, hey, I'm going to start a podcast?
No, I actually love that fact. I
haven't actually got anything to say, and they just ramble.
I think there's an audience for everybody.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to start a podcast, because I think people suck in general talking about themselves or their companies, and I don't think they know how to put the story out there. But I love the fact that they're going for it and trying it.
Yeah.
I heard about a guy the other day, and I don't know who he is. I've never heard his show, but he'd been podcasting for 7 years and still maybe only had like 100 listeners. I think at some point you come to realize it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
And it's 7 years, 100 listeners. You got two choices. If you love it, keep doing it. If you're trying to grow a business with it, maybe at 7 years and 100 listeners, cut it off, right? But I think everybody should at least try it and see what happens. The equalizer is the general population.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are going to tell you you're good or not. And if people aren't coming to listen to your show, you ain't got it. Or you're not putting it out there. The content's the variable, right? And what I tell everybody is there's no competition ever. And I really believe this. You and I both have a podcast, and we're never going to be competition, because some people are going to hear my stuff and love it. Some people are going to hear me and be like, dude, that guy's a freaking idiot, right? And I'm okay with that. It's the same thing. They may absolutely love you. I don't think anybody's ever going to say you're an idiot, right? But they're going to like your style better than they're going to like mine. And, that's what it's all about. Is I hope enough people come out and start sharing their messages or sharing their stories, so it can reach at least one person.
Yeah.
And I think podcasting, the easier it is for people to get into it, the more lives can be touched and changed and groomed and grow as they go with it. And I laugh I talk to a lot of podcasters, and they have this huge studio and all this equipment and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I bought my headset from Walmart. I use Zoom to record, and I just have fun, and people are tuning in, and it seems to be working. So I really enjoy how easy it is. And the other token is, if enough people suck at it, it just makes me look 10 times better.
See, I ask because I did a lot of research before I started my show. I had this conversation with Denise, who's the founder, and when she said about how would you feel about having a show, I was like, oh, that requires me talking to people, and that requires me having shows where I talk on my own. I much prefer doing shows where I've got guests on and I can talk to them, because I sit there and I think to myself, oh my God, I have to do a half an hour show with just me. That puts me off straight away then. Obviously with 20 odd shows under the belt now, I've got quite used to it, but I still prefer to have someone on with me. But when I was doing the research, like, and I was listening to other people's podcasts and stuff like that. There was some on there that I would listen to. I think, wow, like I really enjoyed that, and I'll still like tune in every now and then when I've got the time to like check it all out and stuff like that. And then there was some that I'd come away and I'd be like, I don't even remember what I actually just listened to, and I've literally just hit stop.
Yeah.
Because their content, they've obviously not sat and thought the show through, or they've just decided they're going to have a show where they ramble, because I've literally sat there and gone, I have no clue what it was about. Not able to tell you what I've just heard. Not even able to tell you who the person's name is, because they didn't introduce themselves at the beginning. And I was just like, I have no clue what that is. And then I sit there and I think sometimes you get those people that are born to be podcasters and show hosts and stuff, and then you get some people that want to try it, which is great, but there's like 50 shows down the line and they've got no audience and they're still rambling and they're still making people come away with, what the heck have I just listened to?
See, it was those people though that really got me into podcasts, because I was on some of those shows. And my favorite show I was on, and I'll never use the guy's name, but he literally, before the show started, did a really cool thing. He sent me a list of 20 questions he was going to ask. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I was prepared for the questions.
Yeah.
The problem was, is he went straight through the questions. So he would ask me a question, and just like this, I'm trying to get that interaction like you and I are having a conversation back and forth. Yeah, no, there was no feedback from him. I'd answer the question, and he'd be like, okay, question 2. You know, and the whole podcast was that way. And I tried everything in my power to get him to come out and have a conversation. But I'd ask him a question, and he would just go to the next question in his thing.
See, so there was no... started using a different set of questions then, like he sent you 20 questions and used a different set.
Yeah, something, you know. And it was rough, but it was really his show that I'm like, okay, if this dude can have 10 listeners, surely I can get in and do this and get 11. You know, luckily I've got a lot more than that. But it was those type of interviews that I went on that really said, okay, you can do this and you can make something of yourself. And unfortunately, I think, you know, some of those bad shows may turn off new people to podcasts, and that's unfortunate. You know, but I feel like podcasting is really at its that kind of 13-year-old juvenile stage, getting ready to break loose into the spotlight.
Yeah.
And I think we're really getting on that bell curve where it's going to be more and more accepted as more things come out with like Alexa and Google Home and all that kind of stuff. And it gets a lot easier for people to listen to them.
Yeah.
I think that as long as you enjoy it and people are listening, I really think it's going to be pretty much a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, because you would have asked 2 years ago who listens to podcasts in a room full of people and you get 1 or 2 hands. You ask now and, you know, you're getting almost half the room are like, yeah, I listen to podcasts.
Blown up, like,
yeah.
When I first thought about it, or when I first thought about finding one to listen to, I couldn't find anything anywhere on the topic that I wanted to listen to. Now there's 100 just on one page.
Right. Well, and for me, you know, I listen to audiobooks. You know, that was my big thing. Is Audible, you know, was my huge thing, because I had a long commute, and you know, so I could listen to an audiobook. And I listened to. So I remember listening to the Wheel of Time series, which is a 14-book series over 800 pages per book, right? And you know, it took me a solid year to get through that audio series. Okay. And now I don't even have an Audible account. It's all podcast.
Yeah.
You know, because I can go pick any subject I want to listen to, whether it's entrepreneurs or sales or marketing, or maybe it's just hearing a good feel-good story. I can jump on whatever platform I listen to. I have Android, so I listen to a lot on CastBox.
Yeah.
I don't get iTunes that way, but I can jump on that platform and just type in the search whatever I'm feeling. And the great thing is if you jump into a show in 5 minutes, you don't like what you're hearing, flip it, go to another podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun.
So, final question for anyone that wants to start out on a podcast is maybe a bit like me, and a bit like, oh my God, that means I have to talk to people or anything like that. See, I'm used to it now, but before it was like, oh, how? What tips would you give them to actually starting their podcast, getting over their nerves and everything?
100%. So I have a guy that I'm helping along right now to start his podcast. And he's a reformed alcoholic, had a rough life. And what I told him was, you should start a show helping people that are going through that same journey and struggle.
Yeah.
So what I'll tell everybody is, go find, if you're going to do it around something that you're absolutely passionate about.
Yeah.
Talked to a lady yesterday, and she's like, I'm 60 years old. I don't need it for the money. I'm just bored. I said, well, I bet you've learned a lot over 60 years. And she goes, I really have. I said, wouldn't it be neat if you were to bring young people on the show and just have a conversation about what they're going through and what you've learned? And so she's fixing to launch her show.
That's
so
it.
Don't go into podcasting to grow a business.
No.
Because every podcaster will tell you that they don't make a whole lot of money. Go into it to teach something. Go into it to hear people's stories. Go into it to get people who are passionate about the same, conversation, the same, thing together. I heard of another podcast the other day and I haven't listened to it, but they literally, what they do is read an entire book, right? Wow. That's their podcast. Is they do every episode is like a chapter of a book. I thought, okay, that's fun. I've never heard of that, right? So podcasting is not always this interview style. It's just whatever you're into. So if you're into knitting, have a knitting podcast. If you're into, herding cats, I don't care. Have a cat podcast. It's just a cool way to bring people together that have a common theme and story. Go have fun with it. And literally you can start a podcast for 20, 30 bucks. I mean, it's that simple nowadays. I still laugh at all these guys when I talk to them and we look at them, they have these huge mic setups and all this stuff. And I keep going back to, guys, I launched my podcast and I still to this day launched it with a Walmart headset and microphone. I mean, it's
laptop and Zoom.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you need. So if the components you need a good microphone, you need the Zoom app, you need Audacity to do a little editing if you want to do a little bit of editing, and you need a calendar, scheduler, and that's really all you need, and you can have a podcast.
Yeah.
And use Libsyn to host it. So it's really that simple.
That's very cool. See, and just make sure you actually know your content.
Yeah. And go in and screw it up. I mean, it's the same as everything. You got to go screw things up so you can learn things.
Definitely. I've done it. It's fine.
We all have. If you get into a podcast and you're going to screw it up. My favorite one is when I forgot to change the intro. And I literally had a buddy call me up. He goes, hey, I'm listening to your show. And it's the same one from yesterday. I'm like, no, it's not. I go back and listen to it. I had both intros on there. So I had I had the proper intro on there, but I also had yesterday's intro. I forgot to pull it out. So it's like, hey, on this show it's going to be so-and-so. And then 2 seconds later, it's like, yeah, on this show it's going to be so-and-so. Like, damn it. Right. So, I mean, you're going to do those type of things.
Yeah. See, mine was the other week when I was interviewing someone and literally I was sat in the area that I record in and a motorbike went down one way and I'd forgotten to shut the window and I knew there was going to be noise and it was so hot I'd completely forgotten about shutting the window off. So it went down that way and then 10 minutes later it decided to come back up again. So right in the middle of my show and it's not a quiet motorbike either, it's like this really loud motorbike that we hear at least twice a day. And I'm normally spot on with the times of when it goes down. So I know if I'm recording at that time, shut the window because I don't hear it.
Right.
And then, no, I'd completely forgotten. And then bless the person I was interviewing, we just chalked it up to the fun of being a business owner because his mobile then went off. Like 5 minutes after the second time of the motorbike, we were just like, hey guys, now you know what it's like being a business owner. It's so much fun.
100%. Yeah. And that's, I think the biggest skill set anybody needs to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Business owner is that ability to roll with the punches.
Definitely.
you're going to get punched in the face by life as you go through this. Take it. My favorite phrase from any movie is Rocky Balboa. It's that it's not about being hit. It's about taking a hit and keep moving forward. And then that's every day of a business owner is get punched in the face and keep pushing forward.
Especially in the early stages where there's a lot of punches.
Yeah, a lot of punches. Yes. Yes, because you don't know what you don't know, and you're going to get punched a lot.
Absolutely. Okay, so I know I said that was my final question, but this is actually my final question. See, there's another thing that I can't even keep track of what questions I'm asking. Where can people find you if they want to know more about what you do?
Oh, I love that one. That's my favorite question of them all. So my podcast is called Donnie Success Champion, and you can find me on iTunes, CastBox, all the places. I have two websites. One for the podcast is called thesuccesschamp.com. Then you can find me on my website that is just DonnieBoivin.com. And then I'm on all the platforms. Just do Instagram at Donnie.Boivin, Twitter, Donnie Boivin, LinkedIn. Facebook group is Donnie Success Champion. Come there. I'm doing lives every Friday in there and having fun. So, and if, I don't care. I mean, if you got questions about starting a podcast, you got questions about being a coach, you got questions about sales, I don't care. Feel free to send me an email. You can contact me through my website.
And all those links I will make sure are in the description that you guys can find on here, so then you can click straight on them and be taken off to any site that's just been mentioned.
Awesome.
So I'm hoping that in a couple of months' time, you'll be happy to come on again and we can talk about where you are with everything.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome. So guys, thanks for joining us. You can find me on Facebook at Empowered VA or Empowered Magazine, or you can email me at empoweredvauk@gmail.com, or you can find me on the Global Voice Radio. See, I can't even get my words out anymore. Global Voice Radio platform, and send in any messages for me on there, and they will make sure they're passed on to me. And I, guys, will be back next week. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Join Hannah Edwards and the roller coaster ride of business every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Global Voice Radio, where your voice is heard.